She arrived in a crisp cream blazer, smiling as if the cameras were on her side. But, by the end of the hour, that smile would be gone, replaced by fire, fury, and the sound of a studio chair being pushed back on live television. No one at Loose Women expected the Duchess of Sussex to lose her composure. No one expected Denise Welch to stand her ground. And certainly, no one expected what Meghan said in the final minutes of the segment. This wasn't daytime TV, it was a public reckoning waiting to ignite. The set of Loose Women shimmer with soft lights and the buzz of anticipation. ITV had secured a major booking coup. Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex herself, was scheduled to appear for a warm and candid chat. The producers promised a balanced, respectful conversation, but everyone in the building knew that when Meghan stepped onto that soundstage, the stakes would change. Ruth Langford, ever the gracious host, welcomed the audience with practiced ease. Good afternoon, everyone. We have a very special guest joining us today. She's a mother, a philanthropist, an advocate, and of course, royalty. Please welcome Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex. Applause erupted. Meghan entered with confident steps, giving a light wave to the crowd. She wore an ivory blazer over soft beige trousers, her hair pinned back in a classic low bun. She nodded to Ruth, then took her seat between panelists Denise Welch, Kay Adams, and Jonna Street Porter. "Thank you so much for having me," Meghan said smoothly, her voice calm and cameras focused on her. "It's wonderful to be here back in the UK, even if just briefly." Ruth smiled, as if aware of the delicate tone beneath her guest's words. "We're thrilled to have you. I know your schedule is packed, so we really appreciate your time." The first few minutes were light. Meghan spoke about her children's book, her foundation's latest campaign for girls' education, and the importance of kindness in media narratives. She spoke in polished sentences, moving easily from topic to topic. The audience listened, intrigued but not yet stirred. Then Ruth, with a subtle change in tone, gestured toward the panel. "Let's open the conversation a bit. Denise, I believe you had a question." Denise Welch leaned forward, professional and composed. "Yes, thank you, Ruth." "Meghan, you've spoken in many interviews about how difficult your time was within the royal family, and I believe those struggles, but some viewers might wonder, when it comes to difficult situations, such as your time on Suits or certain high-profile friendships ending, does there ever come a time when you consider maybe the environment wasn't always the problem?" It was a polite version of the question everyone was too cautious to ask. Meghan's eyes didn't blink. "Denise," she began with a saccharine edge, "I came here to talk about my current work, not to relive old narratives. I think I've already addressed that quite publicly." Denise nodded slightly. "Of course, but I think people are interested in understanding how those experiences shaped your journey. Not just what happened, but your perspective on it now." "Perspective," Meghan echoed, her jaw tightening slightly. "That's an interesting word coming from you." Denise didn't react. A brief pause followed. Jonna shifted in her chair. Kay glanced sideways at Ruth. Double quotes well. Ruth cut in with a nervous smile. "Why don't we talk about your podcast, Meghan? You've featured some incredible women, Mariah Carey, Serena Williams." But Meghan returned to the earlier point. "You know, Denise," she said, "you've made quite a career of critiquing women in the public eye. It must be nice sitting there and judging others from a comfortable chair." Denise blinked. "I'm not judging, Meghan, I'm asking questions, and I'm answering," Meghan replied sharply. "Just maybe not the way you expected." The audience shifted in their seats. Kay tried to ease the tension. "Perhaps we can move to something a little lighter. How has returning to the UK felt this time?" Meghan smiled tightly. "Well, it's not like there was a welcome mat rolled out, but it's fine. I'm used to walking into rooms where I'm not entirely wanted." The studio fell quiet. Ruth looked down at her cards. "Let's talk about Harry," Jonna said, clearly trying to steer the conversation somewhere more personal. "How is he doing? Does he miss home?" Meghan slowly turned her head. "Harry's doing just fine. Thank you, he has a real family now. One that sees him. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Denise spoke gently. Do you miss him being close with his brother? Meghan gave a dry chuckle. You seem very invested in my husband's private life. Maybe ask him next time, that's fair, Denise said calmly. But some of our viewers do wonder if reconciliation is ever something on the horizon. I'm not here to stage a family reunion, Meghan replied sharply. I'm here because your producers begged my team for months, Kay cleared her throat. Jana shifted again. Ruth forced a smile. We're very glad you're here, Meghan. Let's move on to something I know you're passionate about, your mental health initiatives. But the spark had already ignited. Meghan crossed her legs, leaned back in her chair like royalty holding court, and muttered, Let's just see how far we get before the next interrogation. The segment ended with an awkward cut to commercial. Behind the scenes, producers scrambled. Meghan pulled out her phone, and Denise simply adjusted her mic and waited. Because she wasn't finished yet, the air in the Loose Women studio had taken on a charge. After Meghan's icy remarks and passive-aggressive deflection, most of the panel remained quiet, unsure whether to push forward or let the Duchess unravel on her own. But Denise Welch was never one to back down. She cleared her throat gently, her voice calm but firm. Meghan, I just want to understand something. You've spoken about privacy many times, but at the same time you've done documentaries, interviews, and written books. Some people feel there's a contradiction there. How would you respond to that? Meghan tilted her head slightly, a smirk forming on her lips. The classic you said you wanted privacy. But you're on Netflix argument, she said, her voice heavy with condescension. Well, Denise, wanting privacy doesn't mean becoming invisible. It means controlling your narrative. Maybe that's a bit too complex for some people to grasp. The studio gasped. Denise blinked, absorbing the remark without reacting. I think our viewers are more than capable of understanding nuance, she replied gently. But surely you can see how it appears when someone says they want space, then releases a 6-part documentary. Meghan scoffed. Are we seriously still doing this? It's giving tired, Denise. Maybe read a new tabloid. Ruth Langsford shifted awkwardly in her seat, trying to redirect. Perhaps we can move on to your children. Meghan, how are Archie and Lilibet adjusting to life outside the royal spotlight? But Meghan wasn't letting go. No, Ruth, I think we should stick with Denise's tabloid obsession, she said, her tone becoming more mocking. Maybe she's hoping this will make it into the headlines tomorrow. Denise let out a quiet breath, trying to stay composed. I'm not looking for headlines. I'm looking for honesty. That's what our audience values. Meghan leaned forward, resting her elbow dramatically on the table. Honesty is subjective. Or didn't they teach you that in journalism school, if you went to one? The room fell silent. Kay Adams exchanged a worried glance with Shauna Street Porter, who simply raised an eyebrow as if thinking, oh no, she didn't. Still calm, Denise tried again. Let's talk about Prince Harry, then. There have been reports that things between you two have changed, that he's been seen more in the UK lately without you. Is everything all right between you two? Meghan's smile froze. She looked directly at Denise, her voice dropping to an icy whisper. That's none of your business. Denise nodded respectfully. Of course, I understand, but you have shared so much publicly before. People are curious, and you've made your relationship a central part of your narrative. Meghan crossed her arms tightly. Well, maybe I've learned my lesson. Just because I opened a window doesn't mean I gave you permission to break down the door. Are you two still together? Denise asked softly, choosing her words carefully. That's all I asked. Meghan's jaw tightened. He's doing what he needs to do. I'm doing what I need to do. We're both adults. That's how healthy people function. But again, thank you for your concern. It was a carefully measured answer, but the tension in her face revealed more than her words. Ruth stepped in once more. All right, perhaps it's time to focus on your recent work in Wanda. But Meghan interrupted immediately. No, let's finish this little interrogation first. I wouldn't want Denise to feel like she left any meat on the bone. Denise leaned back, her hands folded calmly in her lap. I'm not interrogating you, Meghan. I'm trying to understand inconsistencies. That's part of journalism. Meghan laughed dryly. This is not a courtroom. Denise, you're not cross-examining me on the witness stand. Maybe relax a little. Try being supportive of another woman for once. That remark landed hard. The studio audience shifted uncomfortably. The tension had moved beyond awkward. It was now woven into every word, every pause, every glance, but Denise remained composed. Support doesn't mean blind agreement. Women can hold each other accountable too. Oh, spare me the girl power lecture. Meghan snapped. You've made your career off criticizing other women from that chair. So forgive me if I don't accept your solidarity. Ruth tried again. Let's move to your foundation's work on maternal health, Meghan. But Meghan was focused now, unwilling to let it go. No, I'm curious. Denise, since you seem to know so much about my marriage, about my life, why don't you tell the audience what it's like being in my shoes, what it's like being dragged across continents by royal protocol and then dumped by the same public you tried to help? Denise raised her eyebrows. I never claimed to know what your life is like, but you chose public life. You chose to tell your story, and that means others will respond to it. Not always the way you like. Meghan sneered. Thank you for the lecture. Should I kneel now or wait until you hand me a copy of your autobiography? The mood in the room turned sour. Even Kay Adams looked as if she was silently pleading for someone to step in. Still, Denise continued softly and respectfully. When you spoke with Oprah, you said your mental health was at risk. That was powerful. It resonated with so many women. But when those same women see you lashing out like this, dismissing questions with sarcasm, it confuses them. That's all I'm saying. Meghan's eyes narrowed. You don't get to police my trauma expression. If I'm fiery, it's because I've been burned, and I'm not here to play nice so you feel comfortable. Ruth gently tried again. Perhaps just a short break. Let's cool off and come back. But Meghan rose slightly from her seat, not fully standing, but making her presence felt. I'm perfectly fine, Ruth. I just didn't come here to be picked apart by someone who still thinks wearing Union Jack earrings makes her a patriot. The audience let out a collective gasp. Denise pressed her lips together, clearly stung, but refusing to react. Look, Meghan, I don't hate you. I don't even dislike you, but I think you've built a world where only your pain matters, where everyone else is just an antagonist in your story. Meghan slowly stood up for real this time. She wasn't leaving yet. But her posture said everything. To everyone watching, she said with a cold smile, this is what happens when you speak your truth in Britain. You get mocked, minimized, and turned into the punchline of your own trauma. Then, staring directly at Denise, she whispered, and they wonder why I left. The studio lights seemed to burn hotter. Meghan Markle remained standing beside her chair, her expression tight and defiant. Arms crossed like a wall no one was allowed to climb. She hadn't left yet, but everyone could feel she was one spark away from walking off the set entirely. Denise Welch sat still, her hands folded gently in front of her, every muscle in her body visibly working to restrain something far more volatile. Her lips were tight, but her eyes burned with calm fire. Ruth Langford tried to rescue the show. Meghan, perhaps we can shift the conversation to your philanthropic work, the Arkwell Foundation. Your recent initiative on women's access to education. That's something our audience would love to hear about. Meghan didn't look at Ruth. Her gaze remained fixed on Denise. Funny, she said with a smirk. You didn't want to talk about that before. You were all quite busy dissecting my marriage and mental health. But now we're suddenly interested in philanthropy. How convenient. Denise inhaled slowly. Kay Adams broke the silence. I don't think anyone here is trying to corner you, Meghan. We just wanted a conversation. Oh please, Meghan snapped. If you wanted a conversation, you'd treat me like a human being, not a headline. John, a street porter, muttered under her breath. Well, you certainly make enough of those. Meghan's eyes narrowed. Excuse me. Jana waved her hand. Nothing. Just an observation. Denise finally lifted her chin, her voice smooth but firm. You know, Meghan, you walked in here asking to be heard, and for the last 20 minutes, that's all we've done. We've listened. Even when you dismissed it, mocked us, and questioned our intelligence. At what point does it become clear this isn't a conversation, it's a monologue? The audience reacted with a soft wave of gasps and murmurs. Meghan stepped forward slowly, each heel click punctuating her anger. I came here thinking I was sitting with women who understood struggle, women who would stand with me, not act like gatekeepers to some outdated idea of British womanhood. Denise calmly uncrossed her legs and leaned slightly forward. And I came here thinking I'd be speaking with someone who wanted a dialogue, not a stage. But here we are. Meghan's tone sharpened. You think I want a stage? You think I enjoy being scrutinized for every breath I take? You're doing a great job acting like it, Denise replied, her voice finally rising, cool and deliberate, like ice melting over flame. Because instead of using this platform to talk about the causes you claim to care about, you've spent it belittling everyone around you. The audience clapped once, loud and sharp. Meghan's face flushed, clearly unprepared for the panel and the public to clap against her. Do you have any idea what it's like to be hunted by the press? Meghan snapped. Denise didn't flinch. I do. I lived it too. I've battled mental illness publicly for 4 years. I've buried friends. I've had my own headlines twisted into circus shows. The difference is I didn't weaponize it. I didn't turn it into a brand. Gasps echoed again. Meghan's eyes widened in disbelief. That's disgusting. You're accusing me of profiting off my trauma. Denise looked directly at her. I'm saying if you want to be seen as real, then stop selling yourself as untouchable. A long silence followed. Meghan turned to Ruth, almost pleading, but still proud. Are you going to let this woman shame me on national television? Ruth looked shaken. No one is shaming you. But we are trying to get past the script. Meghan suddenly laughed. But it wasn't humorous. It was sharp, hollow, and full of disbelief. I should have known better than to come here, she muttered. She stepped back toward her chair as if reconsidering walking off, but instead placed her hands on the backrest and leaned toward the panel. You know what's exhausting? She asked. Spending your whole life fighting to be heard, only to be told by people like Denise that you're being too loud. Denise answered immediately. And you know what's exhausting? Watching someone twist every question into a personal attack because they refuse to answer honestly. The tension snapped like a wire. Meghan took one slow step forward and stared down the panel. I hope this was worth the ratings, she said coldly, because I'm done, not just with this interview, but with this entire charade you call journalism. She turned to the audience. Think twice about the people you let define your truth. She didn't wait for a response. Meghan Markle pulled off her mic, tossed it onto the table, and walked off the set without another word. The studio door closed behind her with a soft final click. Silence. For a long moment, no one spoke, not even the hosts. Then Denise finally exhaled and turned to Ruth. I didn't want it to end like that. Ruth nodded gently. None of us did. The studio air was heavy. The tension could be cut with a knife. Meghan Markle stood in the center of the Loose Women set, her breath short, her hands clenched into tight, trembling fists. The entire room seemed to hold its breath. Even the cameraman had stopped moving. Denise Welch, still seated, her posture straight and composed, met Meghan's glare with a calmness that only years of media battles could teach. Her voice, low but firm, broke the silence. Meghan, she said carefully, if this is so unbearable, if every question feels like an attack, then maybe this platform isn't for you. That was the fuse. Meghan's eyes flared. So now you're telling me to leave? Really? Is this what journalism is now? Pushing people until they break just to get a viral clip? Denise stood slowly, her palms open. No, I'm telling you that if you're not willing to have an honest conversation without turning every question into an insult, then maybe this discussion has run its course. Ruth Langford's voice came through weakly. Perhaps we should just take a breath. And no, Meghan cut in, eyes wide and voice sharp. She's been attacking me from the start, playing innocent while throwing daggers. You act like I'm paranoid, like I can't handle questions. But what you're doing is gaslighting. Denise didn't flinch. What I'm doing is holding you to the same standard every public figure is held to. I'm not calling you names. I'm not shouting. I'm not storming off. Meghan laughed harshly, without humor. Oh, please don't pretend to be the victim here, Denise. You're the one who ambushed me. You're the one who turned this into a cross-examination. I came here to talk about my work, my causes, and instead I get put on trial. Denise tilted her head, almost sympathetically. Then maybe you should have made that clear before coming onto a panel show. We ask questions. Here, it's what we do. I've done dozens of interviews, Meghan snapped, and no one has ever treated me with this level of condescension. You don't want answers. You want headlines. You want another angry Meghan moment to fuel your toxic media cycle. Denise inhaled sharply. Then Denise said what nobody expected. Then, leave, Meghan, if you believe you're being mistreated. If you truly think you're being abused here, then go. The words landed like a slap. Meghan stared at her, stunned. Excuse me, you heard me, Denise said. Arms crossed. You're not a prisoner. You're free to go. I would never ask a guest to stay in an environment they claim is harming them. Meghan blinked hard. She wasn't used to being told to leave, to be dismissed. I don't need your permission to leave, Denise, she hissed, reaching for her microphone clip. I'm done being your punching bag. I don't need to justify myself to a daytime talk show panel. Ruth tried again, desperate. Meghan, please, let's de-escalate. No, Ruth, Meghan snapped, her voice echoing through the stunned studio. You let her sit there and tear me apart. You let this happen. You let it become a circus. She turned to Denise. And you're not a journalist. You're a glorified gossip columnist with a camera. I hope you enjoy the ratings. Denise didn't respond. She didn't need to. Meghan ripped off the mic, dropped it on the couch, and turned for the exit. Security had begun moving discreetly toward the stage, not to escort her, but to ensure nothing escalated further. Just before stepping off the stage, Meghan turned back one last time. Let the world see this. Let them see what happens when a woman refuses to be silenced. You can spin it any way you want, but this is exactly why I left the royal family, because people like you think silence is grace and truth is arrogance. Denise replied calmly. And people like you think every disagreement is persecution. Goodbye, Meghan. The studio door swung shut behind her. Ruth stood frozen, visibly shaken. Jana looked as though she had seen a ghost. Denise simply exhaled and sat down. After a moment of stunned silence, Ruth cleared her throat. We'll be back after the break. The cameras faded to black. What happened on Loose Women will be remembered as one of the most explosive daytime moments in British television. A royal guest walking off, a panelist refusing to back down, and viewers everywhere asking the same question. Who was really right? Was Denise Welch pushing too hard, or was Meghan Markle unwilling to be challenged? Let us know what you think in the comments, and if you want more bold stories like this celebrity confrontations, raw moments, and real talk, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because on this channel, we don't do scripted fluff. We show you the drama they try to edit.